When Donald Trump launched strikes on Iran in early 2026, the goal was simple: shock the regime, force it to back down, and restore American leverage in the Middle East. But what followed was a shock to the entire world. Iran didn't shut down the Strait of Hormuz. They turned it into a global toll road. Oil tankers can still pass, but many of them now have to pay in Chinese yuan. Did a war meant to defend the dollar just help create its first real rival? This is not just another Middle East war story. It's about the financial system that has kept the US dollar at the center of global trade for 50 years. This system is the hidden engine of American hegemony. And the man who just cracked this open, the same person who said he would end the wars. Over the next 15 minutes, we will dissect how this global shift is hitting African wallets today and reshaping our economic future. To understand the 2026 collapse, we must go back to the beginning. In 1944 at Bretton Woods, the dollar was crowned the world's reserve currency, backed by gold. It was a new global anchor for a broken world. For decades, the dollar was as good as gold. Every $35 could be exchanged for an ounce of physical gold. This gave the world the stability it needed to rebuild. But by the 1960s, the system began to strain. By 1971, the system reached its limit. President Nixon suspended the dollar's convertibility into gold. The dollar was no longer backed by anything physical, just the trust and power of the US military. To save the dollar, Nixon sent Secretary William Simon to Saudi Arabia. They struck a secret deal. America provides military protection. In return, Saudi Arabia agrees to price all oil exports exclusively in dollars. This created a mandatory global demand for dollars. Every country needed oil, so they had to hold dollars first. This allowed America to fund its deficits by recycling oil wealth back into US debt. It was a perfect loop. Let's pause for our first quiz. Why was the 1974 petrodollar deal kept strictly secret for over 40 years? A. To avoid Arab political backlash. B. Because gold was still involved. C. To hide oil shortages. D. Per Nixon's request. Iran controls the northern coastline of the Strait of Hormuz. For decades, they have threatened to close it. Most analysts assumed it was a bluff, but in 2026, Iran responded with a far more calculated move. Iran responded not by closing the strait, but by keeping it open only for tankers paying in Chinese yuan. 12 million barrels have already shipped to China since the war began. It's a currency coup disguised as maritime policy. That's not a blockade. That's a currency coup disguised as transit policy. You own the road. You say anyone can use it, but they have to pay my other neighbor's currency, not yours. When two elephants fight, it is the grass that suffers. But sometimes one elephant thinks it's fighting a rabbit, and by the time it realizes the rabbit is a lion, it's already deep in the grass. This is asymmetric warfare. Iran is a mountain fortress. Its military has spent 40 years figuring out how to fight a superpower without matching it weapon for weapon. With 90 million people, their terrain is a brutal shield. What are Trump's options? Option 1, more strikes. It keeps US casualties low, but every strike risks another headline like what happened at the girls' school in Minab. Option 2, a naval showdown. Option 2, a naval showdown. Iran has mines, drone boats, and anti-ship missiles. One incident and this becomes a completely different war. Option 3, a quiet off-ramp. Option 4, boots on the ground. Military analysts describe 3 invasion corridors. All 3 are strategically punishing. A ground invasion would produce a national insurgency worse than Afghanistan, costing trillions of dollars. Brown University puts the total bill of post-9/11 wars at over $8 trillion, 929,000 lives lost. Libya is a failed state and Iran is bigger and more prepared than all 3 combined. This is the stakes. While the world watches missiles, China was building a bridge, a digital platform for cross-border payments. By early 2026, the digital yuan accounted for 95% of its transactions. This is the new architecture of global finance. Option 4, boots on the ground. Military analysts describe 3 invasion corridors. All 3 are strategically punishing. A ground invasion would produce a national insurgency worse than Afghanistan. Now, look at Africa in 2026. Wars happen far away, and somehow the bill arrives at our door before the meeting notes do. Oil prices rose 50% in 10 days, costing billions in extra import costs. Kenya faced a crisis. By March 2026, fuel reserves dropped to only 20 days. The government was forced to implement rationing and ban exports to protect domestic stability. Ghana faces a painful paradox. They export crude but must spend scarce dollars to import refined fuel because their refinery can't process their own oil. High prices are a trap, not a windfall. In Nigeria, fuel prices rose from 200 to 600 naira in days. When oil rises, fertilizer rises. Food costs surge. In countries where families spend 60% on food, that's hunger. Then there's the debt trap. While advanced nations borrow at 1%, African countries face interest rates near 10%. Nigeria and Kenya spend 30% of revenue just on interest payments. Because debt is in dollars, every time the dollar strengthens during a crisis, the cost of that debt increases automatically. 22 African nations are near debt distress in 2026. We are paying for their wars. African strategists should be asking, how do our assets get priced? Nigeria, Algeria, Mozambique have real leverage. Countries told to follow can actually start to lead. There are signals of change. Nigeria's Dangote refinery represents a move toward refining sovereignty. Processing crude at home reduces the mandatory demand for foreign exchange. The African Continental Free Trade Area provides the vehicle. What if Africa traded energy in a basket of local currencies? Reducing dollar dependency is a strategic necessity. Even in the green transition, Africa holds the cards. The minerals needed for batteries, lithium, and cobalt are here. We must decide today how these future assets are priced. For decades, this market provided the liquidity for global trade, but it also meant that when the US sneezed, the rest of the world caught a cold. The 2008 crisis broke this trust forever. In 2026, we are in a strategic stalemate. Military power can bomb a missile site, but it cannot bomb a digital currency arrangement. The war in Hormuz is a war for the future of money. China's cross-border interbank payment system, or CIPES, processed over 245 trillion in yuan transactions in 2025. It is no longer a potential alternative. It is a robust reality. Unlike SWIFT, which can take days to clear through US intermediary banks, SIPS and mBridge allow for near-instant settlement. This removes the ability to switch off a nation's trade. Building true sovereign wealth, funds not denominated in a single foreign currency, is the first step toward economic independence. We must own our reserves and our future. African nations must use this moment of fragmentation to renegotiate their debt. By playing major powers against each other, we can break the interest rate risk premium once and for all. Energy is the blood of civilization. Pipeline diplomacy is the new frontier. Africa can anchor the South-South energy trade by building its own infrastructure, not just exporting raw materials. The future of money is AI-driven. African nations can use sovereign AI to manage currency baskets and cross-border trade automatically, removing the human error and foreign dependency of the past. The New Development Bank provides an alternative to the IMF. It offers loans without the punishing structural adjustment programs that have historically crippled African economies. This is the New Deal. By 2050, Africa will be the global anchor of energy and labor. The question is whether we will be ready. Reading the signals in Hormuz today is the homework for our children's future. Finance has become the new front line. The ability to exclude nations from the global system is a power that is now being challenged. Africa must build its own shield to survive this era of economic warfare. Central banks across Africa are beginning to diversify their reserves. Holding yuan and gold alongside the dollar reduces the systemic risk of a single point of failure in the global economy. The digital yuan is not just a currency, it is a technology. It allows for cross-border trade without the need for Western banking infrastructure. This is the multi-currency oil market in action. The roadmap is clear. 1. Local refining to reduce dollar demand. 2. Currency baskets for trade. 3. Sovereign AI for financial management. This is how Africa reclaims its seat at the table. Pricing benchmarks matter. Why should African oil be priced against European or American indices? Reclaiming the benchmark is a core pillar of energy sovereignty and economic leverage. Senegal is sitting on significant gas reserves. Their strategic challenge is to negotiate pricing that benefits the Senegalese people, not just foreign oil majors. The Hormuz signal is for them too. Algeria has real leverage in European energy supply. By diversifying the currencies they accept for gas, they can shift the North African balance of power and break the dollar mandate. Mozambique's emerging gas sector is a massive card. The question is, who is holding it? The people of Mozambique or foreign debt holders? Reclaiming this card is the strategic priority. Nigeria anchors the African oil economy. Their move toward domestic refining at Dangote is a signal to the world that the mandatory dollar era for energy is ending. Reclaiming sovereignty starts here. The BRICS Plus bloc now controls 40% of global oil production. They are building a sovereign financial loop that completely bypasses the traditional dollar-based system. Power is no longer monolithic. The world is breaking into regional blocs and sovereign financial loops. In this fragmentation, there are gaps for countries that were once told to follow. The rules are being renegotiated, not at summits, but through conflict and desperation. Those who pay attention and move with strategic discipline will be the ones who lead the next era. The lesson for Africa is this: we cannot afford to be surprised. We are never in the room where decisions are made, so we must be better at reading the signals and building our own room. Negotiating from strength means having your own energy, your own money, and your own data. It means not reacting to someone else's weakness, but acting on your own sovereign vision. Here is your homework. Find out how your country prices its energy. What currency, what benchmark, what leverage does it have? The conversation in Hormuz is heading to your economy next. The petrodollar era is fading. The multipolar world is here. Africa's place in it is as a strategic leader. We will not be the grass that suffers. We will be the lion that leads. This conversation is too important to stay in one feed. Share this with someone who needs to see the bigger picture. Beyond mBridge, the BRICS bloc is developing BRICS Pay, a decentralized payment system. This is designed to unify retail and commercial payments across member states, bypassing the dollar entirely. The R5 currency concept proposes a weighted basket of BRICS currencies. This would provide a stable unit of account for trade and reserves, reducing volatility for African nations. For Africa, this is a game of strategic patience. Reclaiming sovereignty doesn't happen overnight. It requires building the infrastructure of independence while the old systems crumble around us. Digital sovereignty is the next frontier. African nations are leading the world in central bank digital currency pilots. Integrating these with BRICS Pay could create a sovereign financial loop across the global south. By 2050, 1 in 4 workers on this planet will be African. This demographic dividend is the ultimate leverage. If that labor is powered by sovereign energy and sovereign money, Africa wins. The Pan-African Payment and Settlement System, or PAPSS, is already here. It allows for intra-African trade in local currencies, potentially saving the continent $5 billion in transaction fees annually. Financial sovereignty is impossible without data sovereignty. Africa must host its own financial data and its own energy benchmarks. We must build the digital fortresses to match our physical assets. South Africa acts as the strategic gateway for this integration. As a BRICS member and a leader in the African Union, they anchored the connection between these two powerful economic engines. The conversation in the Strait of Hormuz is the opening bell for the African century. Don't just watch the news, read the signals. Build the future you want to see. This integration creates a sovereign energy currency loop. It means African energy fuels African development, paid for in currencies that stay within the continent or its strategic partners. This is how the petrodollar era ends. Sovereignty does not mean isolation. It means choosing who you are interdependent with. Africa is choosing a multipolar future where its cards are finally valued at their true worth. We are not the grass that suffers. We are the architects of the next era. Read the signals, build the room, and lead the future.